welcome to Physics for Life. This is a quick revision video of chapter Magnetism. Magnets and magnetism. A magnet is a piece of material that has both attractive and directive properties. It attracts small pieces of iron, nickel, cobalt, etc. This property of attraction is called magnetism. Natural magnets. A natural magnet is an iron ore called leading stone or magnetite. It is a black iron oxide Fe3O4. Natural magnets were found as early as the 6th century in province of Magnesia in ancient Greece, from which the word magnetism derives its name. Now, next is artificial magnets. Pieces of iron and other magnetic materials can be made to acquire the properties of natural magnets, such magnets are called artificial magnets. Now, basic properties of magnets. So, first is attractive property. A magnet attracts small pieces of iron, nickel, cobalt, etc. Second is directive property. A freely suspended magnet aligns itself nearly in the geographic north-south direction. Third is like poles repel and unlike poles attract each other. This is called the fundamental law of magnetic poles. And fourth one is magnetic poles exist in pairs. Isolated magnetic poles does not exist. If we break a magnet into two pieces, we get two smaller dipole magnets. Now, next is magnetic field. So, the space around a magnet within which its influence can be experienced is called a magnetic field. Now, next is uniform magnetic field. A magnetic field in a region is said to be uniform if it has the same magnitude and direction at all points of that region. Next is magnetic poles. These are the regions of apparently concentrated magnetic strength in a magnet where the magnetic attraction is maximum. Now, next is magnetic axis. The line passing through the poles of a magnet is called its magnetic axis. Next is magnetic equator. The line passing through the center of a magnet and at right angles to the magnetic axis is called the magnetic equator of the magnet. Next is magnetic length. The distance between the two poles of a magnet is called its magnetic length. It is slightly less than the geographical length of a magnet. Now, next is Coulomb's law of magnetic force. This law states that the force of attraction or repulsion between two magnetic poles is directly proportional to the product of their pole strengths and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. If qm1 and qm2 are the pole strengths of the two magnetic poles separated by a distance r, then the force of attraction or repulsion between them is F is equals to mu naught upon 4 pi qm1 qm2 upon r square, where this mu naught is the permeability of free space and its value is 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7 Henry per meter, or Tesla meter ampere inverse. Next is magnetic dipole. Any arrangement of two equal and opposite magnetic poles separated by a small distance is called a magnetic dipole. A bar magnet and a current carrying loop are magnetic dipoles. Magnetic dipole moment. It is equal to the product of the pole strength Qm and the magnetic length 2L of the magnet. So M will be equals to Qm into 2L, and the SI unit of magnetic dipole dipole moment is ampere meter square, or Joule Tesla inverse. Now, next is magnetic lines of force. It is equal to the a magnetic line of a force may be defined as the curve the tangent to which at any point gives the direction of the magnetic field at that point. It may also be defined as the path along which a unit north pole would tend to move if free to do so. Now, next is properties of lines of force. So first is magnetic lines of force are closed curves which start in air from north pole and end at the south pole and return to the north pole through the interior of the magnet. Second is the lines of force never cross each other. Third, they start from uh, and end on the surface of the magnet normally. And fourth one, the lines of force have a tendency to contract lengthwise and expand sidewise. This explains attraction between unlike poles and repulsion between like poles. And fifth one is the relative closeness of the lines of the force is a measure of the strength of the magnetic field, which is maximum at poles. Now, next is magnetic field of a bar magnet at an axial point and on position and point on position. So first, B axial will be equals to 4 mu naught upon 4 pi into 2 m r upon r square minus l square to the power 2, where this r is the distance of the point from the center of magnet. And second, for a short magnet whose L is much less than R, then B axial will be equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into 2 m upon r cube. The magnetic field at any axial point of the magnetic dipole is in the same direction as that of its magnetic dipole moment. Now, next is magnetic field of a bar magnet at an equatorial point. So broadside on position. So first is B equatorial will be equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into m upon in the bracket r square plus l square to the power 3 by 2. And this is second, for short magnet whose L is much less than R, B equatorial will be equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into m upon r cube. The magnetic field at any equatorial point of the magnetic dipole is in the direction opposite to that of its magnetic dipole moment. Now, next is torque on a magnet in a magnetic field. So it is given by torque is equals to mb sine theta, and in vector notation, torque vector will be equals to m vector cross b vector. The effect of torque is to align the dipoles parallel to the field B. If theta is equals to 90 degree, then torque will be equals to mb. Hence the magnetic dipole may be defined as the torque acting on a magnetic dipole placed perpendicular to the uniform magnetic field of unit strength. Now, next is potential energy of a magnetic dipole in a magnetic field. When a magnetic dipole is rotated in a magnetic field against the torque from initial position theta 1 to final position theta 2, the work done or the potential energy stored in it is given by W is equals to U is equals to minus MB in the bracket cos theta 2 minus cos theta 1. And potential energy is 0 when m vector is perpendicular to b vector. Hence potential energy of dipole in any orientation theta is given by U is equals to minus mb cos theta, which is equals to minus m vector dot p vector. And here are some special cases. So first is when theta is equals to 0, then U will be equals to minus mb. Thus the potential energy of the dipole is minimum when m vector is parallel to b vector. This is the position of stable equilibrium. And second case, when theta is equals to 90 degree, then U will be equals to 0. And third case, when theta is equals to 180 degree, then U will be equals to plus mb. Thus the potential energy of the dipole is maximum when m vector is anti-parallel to b vector. This is the position of unstable equilibrium. Next is current loop as a magnetic dipole. So a planar current loop of area A and carrying current capital I behaves as a magnetic dipole of dipole moment m is equals to IA. And in vector notation, m vector is equals to I A vector. And the direction of m vector is given by the right hand thumb rule. If we curl the fingers of the right hand along the direction of the current in the loop, then the extended thumb gives the direction of the magnetic moment associated with the loop. Now next is magnetic dipole moment of a revolving electron. So the orbital magnetic moment of an electron revolving around a nucleus in nth orbit of a radius r with speed v is given by mu1 is equals to evr upon 2, which is equals to e upon 2 mei, which is equals to n in the bracket eh upon 4 pi me, where I is the this I is the magnetic magnitude of the angular momentum of the electron revolving around the nucleus. I think we should represent it as L. Yeah, now this is correct. And now next is Bohr magneton. So it is the magnetic dipole moment associated with an electron due to its orbital motion in the first orbit of hydrogen atom. So it is the smallest value of mu L. So mu b will be equals to mu L minimum, which is equals to eh upon 4 pi me, and which is equals to 9.27 into 10 to the power minus 24 ampere meter square. Now next is Gauss's law in magnetism. So this law states that the net magnetic flux through any closed surface is zero, and mathematically phi b will be equals to integration of closed surface as b dot ds b vector dot ds vector will be equals to 0. This law indicates that isolated magnetic poles, also called monopoles, do not exist. Now next is basic difference between electric and magnetic lines of force. So the magnetic lines of force are continuous and form closed loops. They do not start or end at a point. And in contrast, the electric lines of the force start from a positive charge and end on a negative charge, or they fade out at infinity. Now next is Earth's magnetic field. So when a magnet is suspended freely, it orients itself through in a geographical north-south direction. This suggests that the Earth behaves as a huge magnet. Its field can be approximately to that of a magnetic dipole, with a dipole moment 8.0 into 10 to the power 22 ampere per meter square, with its ampere meter square, with its axis aligned at a small angle with the rotation axis of Earth. The magnitude of the field on the Earth's surface is typically about 10 to the power minus 4 Tesla. Now, next is magnetic meridian. So, the vertical plane passing through the magnetic axis of a freely suspended small magnet is called the magnetic meridian. The Earth's magnetic field acts in the direction of the magnetic meridian. Now, next is geographic meridian. The vertical plane passing through the geographic north and south poles is called the geographic meridian. Now, next is elements of Earth's magnetic field. The Earth's magnetic field at a place can be completely described by the three parameters which are called the elements of Earth's magnetic field. These are first is declination, second is dip, and third is horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. So let's talk about all these. So first is magnetic declination, denoted by alpha. It is the angle between the geographic meridian and the magnetic meridian at the given place. Now next is angle of dip, which is denoted as this delta sign. So it is the angle made by the Earth's total magnetic field with a horizontal direction. And next is a horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. It is the component of Earth's total magnetic field B acting in the horizontal direction. So BH is equals to B cos delta, and at the magnetic equator where delta is equals to 0 degree, then BH will be equals to B. And at the magnetic poles where delta is equals to 90 degree, then BH will be equals to 0. Now next is relation between the elements of Earth's magnetic field. So first is BH is equals to B cos delta, and BV is equals to B sin delta, and BV upon BH will be equals to B sin delta, and from this equation we can calculate B will be equals to under root BH square plus BV square. Next is neutral point. So it is the point where the magnetic field of a bar magnet is completely cancelled by the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. First, for a magnet placed with its north uh, pole pointing geographic north, the neutral point lie at the equatorial line. So at each neutral point, BH will be equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into m upon r square plus l square in the bracket 3 by 2, which will be equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into m upon r cube. And second, uh, for a magnet placed with its north pole pointing geographic south, the neutral point lie with the axial line at each neutral point. BH will be equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into 2 mr upon r square minus l square to the power 2, and which is approximately equals to mu naught upon 4 pi into 2 m upon r cube. Now next is magnetizing field. So the magnetic field that exists in vacuum and induces magnetism is called magnetizing field. The magnetizing field set up in a solenoid carrying current capital I and placed in vacuum, B naught will be equals to mu naught and I, and the SI unit of this B naught is Tesla. Next is magnetizing field intensity or magnetic intensity. So it is the number of ampere turns Ni flowing around the unit length of the solenoid required to produce a given magnetizing field. Thus, this H will be equals to Ni, and also B naught will be equals to mu naught Ni, which is equals to mu H. Therefore, H will be equals to B naught upon mu naught, and the SI unit of this H is ampere per meter, and its dimension are L to the power minus 1 and A to the power 1. Now next is magnetization or intensity of magnetization. So it is the magnetic moment developed per unit volume of a material when placed in a magnetizing field. It is a vector quantity, and m is equals to small m upon v. Its SI unit is ampere per meter or Newton per Weber or Newton per meter square per Tesla. Now next is magnetic induction. So it is the total number of magnetic lines of force crossing per unit area through a magnetic material. Its SI unit is Tesla, and formula for this is B is equals to mu naught in the bracket H plus capital M. Now next is magnetic permeability. So it is the ratio of the magnetic induction to the magnetizing field intensity. So mu will be equals to B upon H, and its SI unit is Tesla meter ampere inverse or Weber per meter per ampere. Now next is relative permeability. So it is the ratio of the permeability of the material to the permeability of the free space. So mu r is equals to mu upon mu naught. Now next is magnetic susceptibility. So it is the ratio of the intensity of magnetization capital M induced to the magnetizing field field intensity capital S. So this xi m will be equals to m upon h, and it can be shown that uh, this mu is equals to mu naught in the bracket 1 plus this xi m, and mu r will be equals to 1 plus xi m. Now classification of magnetic materials. So magnetic materials are broadly classified into diamagnetic, paramagnetic, and ferromagnetic. So first is diamagnetic substances. So these are the substances which when placed in a magnetizing field get feebly magnetized in the opposite direction of the applied field. Such substances are feebly repelled by the magnets and tend to move slowly from stronger to weaker parts of the magnetic field. Example are Bi, Cu, Pb, Si, N2 at standard temperature pressure, and H2O and NaCl. Next is paramagnetic substances. These are the substances which when placed in a magnetizing field get feebly magnetized in the direction of the magnetizing field. Such substances are feebly attracted by the magnets and tend to move slowly from weaker to stronger parts of the magnetic field. Examples are Al, Na, Ca, O2 at STP and Cu, Cl2. Now, and the last one is ferromagnetic substances. These are the substances which, when placed in a magnetizing field, get slowly magnetized in the direction of the magnetizing field. Such substances tend to move quickly from weaker to stronger parts of a field. Examples are Fe, Ni, Co, Cd, etc. The magnetic susceptibility Xi is a small and negative for diamagnetic substances, and small and positive for paramagnetic substances, and large and positive for ferromagnetic substances. The relative permeability mu r is equals to 1 minus psi is slightly less than 1 for diamagnetic substances, slightly greater than 1 for paramagnetic substances, and of the order of 1000 for ferromagnetic substances. Next is Curie's law. So the magnetic susceptibility of a paramagnetic substance varies inversely with its absolute temperature. So xi m is proportional to 1 by T, or xi m is equals to C upon T, where C is the Curie's constant. Now Curie's temperature. So the temperature above which a ferromagnetic substance becomes paramagnetic is called Curie's temperature, denoted by Tc. And the modified Curie law for ferromagnetic substances above the Curie's temperature is xi m is equals to C dash upon T minus Tc, and for T is greater than Tc. This relation is also called Curie-West law. Now next is hysteresis. So the phenomenon of lagging of the magnetic induction behind the magnetizing field in a ferromagnetic material is called hysteresis. The area of the hysteresis BH loop gives the energy wasted in a sample when it is taken through a cycle of magnetization. Next is retentivity or remnants. Okay, so the magnetic induction left behind in the sample after the magnetizing field has been removed is called retentivity. And now next is coercivity. So the value of the reverse magnetizing field required to make the residual magnetization of a sample equal to zero is called coercivity. And next is tangent law. When a short magnet is suspended freely under the combined action of two uniform perpendicular magnetic fields B and BH, the magnet comes to the rest, making an angle theta with the direction of BH such that BH will be equals to BH tan theta. And next is tangent galvanometer. Its working is based on the tangent law and is used to measure very small currents. It consists of a circular coil of radius r and n turns. So if a current capital I in the coil produces the deflection theta in the compass needle at the center of the coil, then I will be equals to 2r bh upon mu naught n tan theta, which is equals to k tan theta, where this k is equals to 2r bh upon mu naught n. So is the reduction factor of the tangent galvanometer. Now next is vibration magnetometer. So it is used to compare the magnetic moments of two bar magnets or to determine the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. If a bar magnet of magnetic moment m and moment of inertia I uh, oscillates moment of inertia L oscillates under the horizontal component BH of Earth's magnetic field, then its period of vibration is T is equals to 2 pi under root L upon MBH. Now next is uses of vibration magnetometer. So first is measurement of magnetic moment of a magnet. M is equals to 4 pi square I upon BH T square. Second is comparison of magnetic moments of two magnets of same size and same mass. M2 upon M1 equals to T1 square upon T2 square. Next is comparison of magnetic moments of two magnets of unequal sizes of and masses. So M1 upon M2 is equals to T2 square plus T1 square upon T2 square minus T1 square. Now Fourth is comparison of horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. BH upon B dash H is equals to T dash square upon T square. Thank you for watching the video.